It's time for Fox and Friends.
Listen to this next story. Madonna, known for expressing herself, but her neighbors in her Manhattan apartment building, they're not too happy about it. They are filing a lawsuit over the loud music and dancing. Could the Material Girl be evicted, guys?
Yeah, we're joined this morning by a defense attorney and Fox News legal analyst Mercedes Colwin and trial attorney Kelly Saindon.
Hi, ladies.
Good morning to you guys.
Hi. Good morning, us.
Did I say your name last? I said it wrong, didn't I?
You did.
How do you say it?
Saindon.
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 All right, so Madonna's neighbors are not happy. Apparently she is dancing and singing and cranking tunes at all hours of the night. She's 51.
Good for her.
But she lives in an apartment building. Come on. Where's the consideration?
But frankly, looking at this, though, Allie, anybody living in New York, aren't there sirens blaring? Aren't there cabs honking? Aren't there cars everywhere? If you can't take the heat, get out of New York City, my friends, okay? I lived in the city long enough. As a New York girl, I'm telling you, that's what it's like.
Let me look at the lawsuit now. Here's a quote, an excerpt from the lawsuit. Madonna and one or more of her invited guests repeatedly dance and they're training to unreasonably high decibel amplified music, causing noise and vibration to pour through the walls, ceilings, and radiators. Miss George has been forced to endure blaring music, stomping and shaking walls for approximately 1.5 to 3 hours each day. And I know that this is in some rental lease agreements. Vibrations through the wall, if it causes problems after 10 p.m. at night, that's reason to get evicted.
Absolutely, and the board is saying that they've already told Madonna that she's going to be evicted, that this is improper, it's too loud, and she needs to tone it down or get out.
What are the implications here? I mean, Mercedes, you're telling me across the country now you're going to open the door for lawsuits because of people partying and training?
And that's the issue here. I mean, frankly, you know that's going to happen in some of these multiple dwelling apartments. You know there are going to be lots of people. There's lots of activities, lots of families, lots of stomping on the... I mean, anybody living in Manhattan knows when you walk across, you're making a little noise.
Yeah.
One of the issues here it's going to boil down to is when is this music happening? If it's in the middle of the night, maybe they've got a great claim, but no one is saying that. This is during the day.
It said the day.
And that's going to be a key issue here. That's during the day. Well, there's going to be some noise.
Mercedes, it sounds like you're saying, hey, live with it, people. You live in an apartment building. And surely, Kelly, to her point, they knew who Madonna was when the board let her live there.
Agreed, but you have to respect your neighbors as well. You can't just say, I'm Madonna, so I can do whatever I want. I feel like cranking the music, put up with it.
Well, why is this so difficult? She's forgive me if I'm wrong, but I believe she is a millionaire. Couldn't she go to a dance studio, for crying out loud, and train?
She wants her privacy, though. Can you imagine? I mean, Madonna can't walk on 6th Avenue like any of us can, but she can't do that.
She hates publicity.
So she brings the party to her house.
That's not going to hold up in court.
All of us would be
I want my
stomping our
privacy.
heels.
That's why I date A-Rod. That's not going to hold up.
I'd be stomping my feet in her apartment, too, if I were there with the beat of the music.
Well, during the commercial break, we're going to have you guys train, but stick around because you guys are going to be back with more legal topics.
You won't get sued, though. We like it loud.
No, we run this place.
Stick around because we have the big story of the day to talk to you guys about because there's breaking news on the balloon boy. Big developments this morning. Authorities now say this is a criminal investigation. We're going to look at the charges that could be coming next.
That is a Class 3 misdemeanor, which hardly seems serious enough given the circumstances. So what we're going to have to do is back up a little bit, retract, talk to the district attorney. We certainly want to talk to FAA officials and federal officials to see if perhaps there aren't additional federal charges that would be more appropriate in the circumstances than what we're able to do locally.
Well, the balloon drama that could potentially be a hoax may now mean charges for the boy's father, Richard Heaney. We're back this morning with Mercedes Colwin and Kelly Saindon. Good to see you both again.
Yeah.
Class 3 misdemeanor charges. What does that mean? It seems light, doesn't it?
It is very light. It's basically less than 12 months in prison, if that at all. There's no criminal history to this family, so we're talking probation. We may even talk about a dismissal. That's why the sheriff is so upset. He's thinking, I have to move forward. I've got to push and go to the feds.
So how are they going to look? He talks about going back to federal investigators, going back to the feds and talking with them there. And he said talking to the district attorney. What other things could they pull up here?
Well, they are looking at what Mercedes just discussed. They're looking at past history of the family. They're looking at whether or not other people can implicate that this was a calculated hoax and not a realistic, the little boy was hiding and he did it on his own. So they're going to consider all of the facts and circumstances surrounding it.
What about money? Let's talk about money. So much was made about the helicopters that were up flying over this thing the entire time, spending a lot of taxpayer dollars to track first responders who were pouring onto the scene to make sure that this little boy was okay. Would the family have to pay any of that money back?
Some folks are saying they will, because remember the runaway bride? She had hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay back. But I don't think this is a hoax, though. I really believe that, because honestly,
wait a second.
I swear, I honest to God, if there's one way for you to have the entire world know that you're doing something, is to tell your little kids. You're not going to tell your kids, hey, here's a secret. Mommy and Daddy want to pull the wool over these people's eyes. Just pretend that you went on the balloon. I don't think that I really honestly feel that this is not a hoax.
But all evidence to the contrary right now, it looks like. I mean, as a little boy says on national television, you said we did it for the show. We did it for the show. And whether or not the parents then had him hide in an attic in an effort to get to pull off this hoax.
Clayton, he's 6 years old. All of the viewers here who have little children know there's one way to tell everybody what you're up to is tell your little kid who's going to say, oh, bub. They're not going to do that. I honestly think that there were two kids involved, the older one and the 6-year-old. The older one said, oh, I saw him move. I saw him disappear in that balloon.
If you were defending this family, Kelly, would you be able to defend this as a non-hoax? Would you be able to say this is simple and all evidence right now seems to be pointing the other way?
Absolutely.
You'd be able to defend this?
I think I would. I think that first of all, it has to be specifically calculated to be a crime. Secondly, they didn't say call out a SWAT team, follow this for hours, spend $2 million.
But they did call a camera crew. They had filming taking place. We now know, according to the New York Post this morning, that the father had spoken at length before to a friend who said we wanted to do something like this, put something like this together in an effort to draw attention to my family. Does that? There's a paper trail there.
But does that make it a crime?
That's the question. I mean, is that a crime? I mean, you have all these first responders out there. You have helicopters flying out there. You have national media attention pointing in this way. You possibly, and now we have Child Protective Services looking at the health and wellness of this family and whether or not these children should be protected. Does that rise to the level of a crime?
It depends. Well, it depends on what they said to law enforcement, because there is a 911 call from the mother, and she's calling, she's crying, she's calling, I can't find my 6-year-old. That's why the sheriff came forward with those charges. But short of that, Kelly's exactly right. They're the ones that had the camera crews. The media descended upon this family. There was a lot of media attention. That drove a lot of the efforts by law enforcement.
And if I may say one thing about that, if you do have a lost child, if that's legitimate and you do have a lost child, wouldn't you use every method available to you to bring attention on that? So if he was legitimately lost and they didn't know, wouldn't you call the media?
Sure. Well, I think, yeah, you'd call 911 first, then you might call Fox and Friends.
Exactly.
I would.
There you go.
That'd be the next step. 911, then call Fox and Friends. Mercedes and Kelly, thanks so much for being here this morning. Great
Thanks so much.
Thank you.